Hey there, welcome back to another review. This time of the 2016 action thriller, The Accountant. Now, this is another film from last year that I was actually really curious about. I saw the trailer, I liked it. I thought it was an interesting idea. The idea of an autistic badass assassin. I was like, wow, huh, okay. Played by Ben Affleck, who I honestly really do enjoy a lot of his films and a lot of his performances. He was one of the only things I liked about Batman vs Superman. So, I was really looking forward to the film, and was not able to catch it in the theater, but I did check it out later when it came out on home video, and I liked it. I didn't love the film. I have to say, the first time around, like after I saw it once, I think I was just kind of carried away by the whole, oh man, it's a guy with autism who's a badass who kicks ass. And that's not something that you really see. And I thought that was inventive and that was quite unique. But that kind of, when I thought about it some more, it does have some issues and enough problems that really prevent it from being a movie that I loved or as a whole or thought it was a great film. But I thought it was an all right, it was a pretty good movie. I wouldn't say all right because I think it's better than that. It's not mediocre. I didn't think it was a mediocre film. What was mediocre would just be a time waster, and I really would not have any desire to see it again. But I personally thought it was at least an above average movie, and that's ultimately how I feel about The Accountant. But mainly because I thought there was a little bit more it could have done, but it didn't go there. And then there's a subplot that's just insufferably dull and boring that should have been cut out of the film. But anyway, the film is directed by Gavin O'Connor, who the direction, it's fine, but there's nothing spectacular about it. It's fine. It's adequate. It's just alright. It's adequate direction. The screenplay by Bill Dubuque, or Dubuque, or however you say his last name. This is where the film has some problems. You have this subplot where you have this data analyst played by Cynthia Addai-Robinson. Character is Mary Beth. And she is, first off, the actress, she reminds me of Sana Laughlin from AVP, and that's not a good thing. She's really bad, if you ask me. She has no personality. She's flat as a board. She quite frankly sucks. And she sucks the life out of the film every scene that she's in. She has a subplot where she's investigating what's going on with Ben Affleck's character and so on, and it's just so fucking boring. And she's being set up to be a successor for J.K. Simmons' character, and it's just like, they could have really trimmed that down a lot. Because the movie as itself is a bit too long anyway. It's 128 minutes, and it definitely does slog and kind of drag along at times. So, I mean, because there's like scenes with this analyst lady, and she's like figuring stuff out like way too late, like stuff that the audience has kind of figured out before she does, type stuff. And I always hate it when movies do that, where they have this just storyline that just keeps showing up, and you're just like, oh come on, I figured this out already. It's not that hard. This is your job. You should be able to figure this out a lot more quickly than you do. But it's only because the movie has to stretch the running time out with padding, so that's why you have sequences like that, where they're like struggling to figure out what the big deal is, or trying to figure out what the identity is of the, if this is like a CSI, they'd be padding out the running time trying to figure out who the identity of the killer is, and it's right in front of their face. But that's just my personal thoughts on that character, and that whole story arc is completely fucking worthless. Um, the screenplay, so you have that, which is a problem, and the movie, for the most part, much like its autistic protagonist, played by Ben Affleck, it's And I have autism, so I'm not trying to use this as a knock against people with autism, because I have Asperger's syndrome. So I mean, I can't really say I'd be knocking myself if I was doing that. But what I'm saying is, much like the character who seems to be pretty antisocial and hard to relate to, the film itself is kind of just as cold and unfeeling and alienating. And I think that hurts the movie because it's just kind of it's not as entertaining as it can be. And so, just that does hurt the film's pacing as well, because it gets a bit boring after a certain amount of time, and then you're just waiting for something to happen. Um, this movie's like one part A Beautiful Mind and one part Jason Bourne. And it's better than Jason Bourne that came out last year. I mean, this is a better film than that. That was an awful movie, and I'll talk about that later. But, I mean, it doesn't take a lot to be better than that movie. Now, the film, it also has an ending which is very anticlimactic, which just the ending. I was wondering where Ben Affleck's character's brother was. I was like, where is it? Where's his brother? He just disappeared. Is he going to show up again? So that was unpredictable. I didn't see that coming, but it was the type of unpredictable that makes you scratch your head afterwards, and you're like, well, that was unpredictable, but at the same time, I don't really think that was the right choice. That was just random. And they're like, oh, the guy's been trying to hunt him down this whole time. He's his brother. Oh my God, wow. And then the villain, who of course is John Lithgow. Come on, we all know that already. That was not. That was very predictable. But like I said, predictable and unpredictable. I mean, the movie can be predictable and cliched all it wants to, but if it's good, I don't really give a shit. To be perfectly honest. But here, I liked it, and I thought it was a good movie, but I think it was a great film because you just had that kind of, oh, the villain is who you think it's gonna be, and so on. And John Lithgow, interestingly enough, was also in another film with an autistic slant with somebody with autism in it called Silent Fall, which I also reviewed on my channel. And I definitely like this more than Silent Fall. And that's another movie had like some weird twist at the end. It's like, oh no, it's in that film, spoiler, it was, oh, Liv Tyler is crazy. And in this one, it's John Lithgow or his brother, Jon Bernthal, the Punisher, is Ben Affleck's brother. Oh, the guy's been hunting him down this whole time. It's his brother. Oh no, holy shit. So, and another thing that didn't really work was Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick, who played this character named Dana Cummings, which is, honestly, that sounds like a porn star name. Did you really think that through, writers? Or writer, Bill Dubuque? Did you really think, were you thinking with your dick there? Was that what that was? Oh man, such a hard on for Anna Kendrick. Uh, oh man, I love her. She's so pitch perfect. Uh, Cummings. That's her last name. Come on. Fuck out of here with that. She has this sort of relationship with Ben Affleck, which is just awkward and weird, which is how a lot of relationships are with people with autism or people with really highly functioning Asperger's. Um, so I can kind of relate to that because it's really awkward. Anytime that I've tried to get in any kind of relationship, it's just been pretty disastrous. So I've just kind of not really focused on that. I've just been focusing on YouTube and other things. But it's just one of those things. It's not really. It's very weird. It's uncomfortable to watch on film, and it's supposed to be, but at the same time, it's not really something that is enjoyable to sit down and watch, to see these two kind of fumble around and try to emote with each other. And it's like Anna Kendrick is trying to emote with a brick wall, or it's just kind of. Eh. Um, but I get what they're going for. It's not a very good dynamic at all, because it's different, but that doesn't mean it's good, because they don't have any chemistry, and then it kind of hurts the film. And the movie also suffers from what a lot of films suffer from lately, just the unlikable character syndrome, which I'm going to call UCS, where there's not really a lot of likable characters. Even Ben Affleck is kind of an ass, so it's kind of, he's got some good things about him, but he's not really a good guy. He's done some pretty awful shit in the past. He had like a Death Wish style revenge killing spree. So, this is a guy who is, and he's doing all this money laundering and stuff for the mob. So, he's kind of like if Bruce Wayne just didn't really become Batman, but he still did some, crime fighting on the side, but also did some money laundering. I mean, that's honestly kind of what the accountant is like. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just, there really isn't a lot of like, ooh, man, I love this character. Everyone is flawed, and that's a problem. When everyone in your cast, every character is flawed, or you don't really have a character that is right front and center, the one that you enjoy, you like, that it's fun to be around, and one that you want to watch the film again to see on camera. And the more I think about this film, the more I don't even, above average. I don't see, that's the thing. It's like, part of me is I want to praise the film for, there were some decent action sequences, although they weren't that particularly memorable, which that's a problem. Ben Affleck was great. I thought he did a great job playing this autistic man. I thought there was really some interesting touches that the script had, showing that in order for him to deal with his panic attacks and his anxiety, he desensitizes himself in a really inventive way, where he has like the alarm clock blaring super loud and strobe lights going off, and he's like taking a rolling pin and rolling it on his knee, or smacking himself, with the rolling pin to make it hurt, so it's hitting it hard enough so it hurts, so it, snaps him out of it. Because, his father was an asshole who honestly did not know how to properly, uh, treat this kid with autism, and basically taught him to just kind of basically desensitize himself. And that's whenever he got in a situation where the anxiety was too much. So, but that was interesting, and there's some nice little, stuff with some sniper rifle some nice shootouts, and they're nice, but they're not like spectacular or great. They're kind of, it's just, they're nice. They're there, and uh, like I said, some few little fisticuffs here and there, but I mean, the film is watchable for the premise and for Ben Affleck, but other than that, I mean, there's some missed opportunities. I mean, they show Ben Affleck's his whole place, his house. I mean, it's definitely a movie that on a second viewing does not hold up nearly as well. Because that's what I'm thinking about. It's like, first time I saw it, I liked it more, and then I saw it again, and I'm like, there's not really a lot of rewatchability factor the second time around, because there's just these puzzle pieces that are missing that would really complete the film and make it a much better movie, but they're missing. They're not on the board. They're not in the box. And yeah, I mean, you have an action film that there's not a lot of action. You have a thriller where the story isn't necessarily that thrilling or that intriguing. You got this mystery, and the whole mystery aspect is this boring subplot with TK, with I think it's J.K. Simmons, T.K. Simmons, J.K. Simmons. If I kept saying T.K. Simmons throughout this entire fucking review, I apologize. My bad. J.K. Simmons and Cynthia Addai-Robinson. I mean, you even have Jeffery Tambor in this, and he just plays like a former money launderer guy for the mob who ends up teaching Ben Affleck the ropes, so to speak. And he's in it for a little bit, but he's fine. It was nice to see him again because I do like him as an actor. He doesn't seem to get a lot of roles lately, so it was nice to see him again. It's nice to see John Lithgow again too, and like, he brings in the accountant, Ben Affleck, to look into some discrepancies with the account that he's working at, this robotics firm. And of course, then you find out later that the film tries to do some misdirection that it's not John Lithgow, but I didn't buy any of it. So then you find like, okay, it is him, and one of his employees wound up dead, and at this robotics firm is where Ben Affleck meets Anna Kendrick, and there's a nice scene where he's going in and trying to find all the discrepancies in the account, and he does it in a cool way where he's writing all over the windows and stuff. That's what I mean by a beautiful mind. It's kind of like that. He's a savant with numbers, which I know there was actually some controversy with this film, where there were some people with autism who were trying to like boycott the movie or trying to get people to boycott it because of its Hollywoodized version of autism. Yeah, but also you do know that it wouldn't be a very good movie or really be a movie that anybody wants to watch if it's like some really highly functioning autistic kid, autistic man who can't even form coherent sentences and is very awkward around people, and that really wouldn't work at all. And they're like, oh, why didn't they hire autistic actors? I'm like, are there any autistic actors? Are there any does that exist? And I thought Ben Affleck did fine, so I don't see the problem. I might offend people there, but I didn't see the issue, and I'm technically autistic, so I mean, I more than anyone know what to look for, and I saw that in the trailer. I was like, he has autism, right? And he does. I was like, okay. And they didn't really go outright and say it either. They kind of skirted the lines and didn't really even say that he has Asperger's or he had autism. They were just kind of they're saying he's different and whatever. And I got to knock the film a little bit for that, because come on, you didn't really need to skirt the line there. Come on. But there is a stereotype out there about, autistic men or women that, and it's something that I really do not like, is, on the internet you have people who use that as an insult. Oh, this autistic person, or oh, what a autistic post, or whatever, that kind of stuff. And I just, that's disappointing to see every time I see it on YouTube, to be honest. Um, and I didn't really feel it was offensive. So that's the thing. I mean, if it was an offensive portrayal, then maybe I would see the reason why people are upset and they're outraged at the movie. But it wasn't offensive, so I didn't have an issue with it. So he's a savant with numbers. There are a lot of autists out there who are. Just because they're not everyone is like that doesn't mean that you can't have an autist in the film industry, or you're in a movie, really, not the film industry. You can have an autistic character be the savant type of character. What's more interesting, the savant type of character who is really good with numbers and can be a badass assassin, or the one who just is average? I mean, do you really want to see an action thriller with an average character, with an average guy, like starring me? I mean, I mean, some people might, but I don't think anybody wants to watch an action thriller starring me. So I consider myself a fairly average, guy with Asperger's. So I don't think you want to see that movie. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not a problem to me at all. What the problem that I have with the film is the ending is anticlimactic. John Lithgow just gets shot in the head and just whatever until he's dead, and who cares? Um, and there's a bit of a confrontation between the two brothers, but they eventually kind of just they reconcile, and then Ben Affleck's character eventually goes back on the run and gives Anna Kendrick the Jackson Pollock painting that she wanted, and then it's pretty much end credits. So I mean, it's just anticlimactic endings, subplots that are boring, stuff that they don't do enough with, like Ben Affleck's house which has all these different security protocols and all these different cameras. It even has a minigun in the house for defense, and it's never used. J.K. Simmons just walks in with his the predecessor lady who can't act, and they go in and look around, see all the cool security setups, and see a fucking minigun, and nothing is done with it. So I think the film should just focus more on Ben Affleck's character, just more on his vigilante stuff, where he's a vigilante going around doing money laundering on the side, but he's like a double agent. You know, he's playing both sides. Where so he's like he's in the mob, but then he's also on the side for good, taking tips from what is in essence pretty much Oracle from Batman. So that's honestly what I would have rather have seen. Kind of like Bruce Wayne, but with a gun, and he's going around and doing accounting. He's an accountant by day and a badass assassin by night. So that's the kind of I honestly, it could have benefited from being more straightforward and just more simple. Because if you're gonna be like this, you need to have all the pieces fit the puzzle. And this, like I said earlier, it just doesn't have all the pieces. So then it just is kind of lackluster. But it's not enough for me to be like upset and angry at the film. This was worth a watch. Ben Affleck was great. I'd recommend it. You know, if you find it for cheap someday down the road, or if you really want to see the movie, but you haven't got around to doing it yet, I'd recommend checking it out for Ben Affleck. And it is really nice to see a movie where you have a guy with autism who has Asperger's and he kicks ass. I mean, that's a nice step forward in the right direction when it comes to how Hollywood makes films with people with autism or Asperger's syndrome. Because most of the time it's just stuff like Silent Fall, which just isn't really that good. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to say about The Accountant. And except, I mean, there's also other things too, like the typical sort of stuff that a lot of films lately are missing. The score, forgettable. Who cares? Who cares about the score? I don't remember a single note from the score. Do you? Do you remember anything from this score by Mark Isham? Cinematography is fine. Richard Pearson's editing was fine. Like I said, the movie's a little bit too long. The movie did alright at the box office, $154.2 million, but like a $44 million budget, so it wasn't as big of a hit as the studio probably would have liked it to be. And but I'll definitely say this: I wish this made $400 million instead of Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne is Jason Bourne. Like, this is boring at times, but it's not nearly as boring as that movie. Because at least you have the intriguing concept of the accountant and Ben Affleck and stuff like that. But I just wish, I could have had more of the accountant, more of the action, more action, a little bit more intrigue, and that would have benefited the film greatly, in my opinion. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching my review of The Accountant. And yeah, I've got to give it my star rating because I was just like, well, for a second I was like, well, all right. It pains me to say this because originally I'd given it I was going to give it like 4 stars, but then I saw it again for a second time and it didn't really hold up as well a second time. So I would have to give it 3. It's not my top 10, but it's an honorable mention. It's all right. It's there. It's a decent film. It's a time waster for Ben Affleck. I would see that if I saw the film for cheap someday in like a pawn shop or whatever, I'd pick it up, but I'm not going to run out and buy The Accountant. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.